So, what are the stories you're telling yourself about yourself and your life and your happiness or your lack of happiness or your work or your desires or your goals? Now, as I've said before, in this material world, nature decrees. There's a positive, just as there is a higher. There's a negative, just as there is a lower. There's nothing that can change that. It's science. In the very depths and understanding of science, in the material world. And I'm not talking about the submaterial, subatomic world. That's a whole nother universe and another discussion. I'm talking about this material world we live in now, where we feel and see things and people, but we are ruled by our immaterial mind and thoughts. So if you're thinking low or negative, your life can be that way. You can be telling yourself a negative story. Now, sometimes you've got to really look closely to know if that's what you're doing. Maybe you've been going about your life the way you have all of your life, thinking, this is my life. I can't change it. I was born here. This is my name. I can't change it. This is my husband. I can't change him. These are my children. I can't change them. This is my job. I can't change it. This is my school. I can't change it. Doesn't that sound like a pretty boring and negative mantra? You can change anything you want to change. The change begins with you inside your head and how you look at things, people, situations. Now, I'm a person who change comes to naturally. In numerology, the number of change is 5, and that's my number. For my name, for my birth date, 5. And change is how I grew up, from being changed from where I was conceived as a baby to where I was born, to the fact that I always was moving, living in an Air Force family, never attending more than 2 years in one school, losing friends, moving, changing jobs as an adult. And even before I became an adult, I was changing my name. Yes, I've had many names, all legal, all different, all for different reasons, though that's another story. So all of these things you think or society has told you, or your parents or your community, or even your religion tell you you can't change. You can. You can change everything. And the first change comes in realizing everything is a story. Your whole life is a story. You have a beginning, you have a middle, you have conflicts, and you have an end. We all share that same end called death of this physical body. So if it's all a story, why don't you make a story? Why don't you tell a story that you enjoy, that you want to live, that has meaning and purpose for you? That's what life's all about. Writing your own story. And you can write your own story right now, beginning today. Just look at the story you're telling yourself. Are you happy with it? Are you happy with your life? Are you happy with the people in your life? And if you're not, start thinking, what would make me happy? Now, sometimes we think we're not happy with somebody, but it's really, we need to look at ourselves. We need to look at why we have these feelings towards someone. Why do we think we're so important and what we feel is more important than what that person feels? Now, if someone is not physically, mentally, or emotionally abusing you, and abuse takes many forms, but it's hurtful. It's not productive. It's not positive. It never comforts. It doesn't encourage you. It pushes you down. And if it's physical abuse, that's very easy to know. Getting physically abused in any way is something you should definitely immediately change. Emotional, mental, even financial abuse, those are a little bit harder to determine sometimes. And it may take you time sitting, thinking, writing, reflecting, or talking to other people to determine if what you think isn't fair or right is really abuse or just your attitude. Now we're getting into a level of talking about doing some deep introspection, doing some deep thinking, journaling, and sometimes even talking to someone else. And that someone else doesn't have to be a high-priced psychiatrist or psychologist unless you find yourself in the position of abusing drugs or alcohol or even abusing food by eating too much or too little, or even just spending money willy-nilly. All of those are signs that you need some serious consultation, but only works if you're ready to listen to someone. And the first step of determining any of this is to look at the story you're telling yourself. What kind of story are you telling yourself? How have you built it? What have you created in your mind about your life? What are you attached to in your life that has caused you to create the story you've created? Are you attached to fears? Are you attached to the things you own? Are you attached to a way of doing things? Are you attached to your job or where you live or the people you hang out with? Some of the biggest problems in stories are the attachments and the fear of what happens when you lose those attachments. And it's just a fear, because often nothing bad will happen when you cut an attachment. Actually, you may discover a new sense of freedom and a new sense of self and knowing who you are. So, today, if you're not in a spot where you can really say, I'm happy with my life and I'm happy with myself, and really know it and feel it, make a resolve to take some time this weekend and really look at your life. Take some time and do a little bit of writing. Think about, what are you attached to? What are you afraid of losing? And then, why don't you write a story about a life that would make you happy? And start thinking of, what will it take to make this life, this happy life you want to have, manifest? What will you have to let go of? What will you have to change? These are the steps you take to creating the story of your life you want to write and you want to have as your legacy. So think about these things. And this is a topic we're going to come back to again later in November. after Harmony for the Holidays, which is next week. And I'm encouraging you to register. It's going to be a wonderful event with wonderful speakers and valuable information that if you follow, you'll be changing your holiday story because you will be stress-free and your family will be happy and it'll be a whole new positive experience. All you have to do is register, and you can register at the link below this post or the one further down on the post with the pictures of the speakers for Harmony for the Holiday. Or you can just always write Skywalker at Vibrant Velvet Voice, and I will register you. Starting next Tuesday will be the speakers, and on Monday, I will be speaking, explaining the Shri Yantra and how you can win some very valuable prizes. Think about your story, think about your life, and now, good evening, good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world.